Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Dipankar, and in this video we are going to talk about one of the interesting and important concept of integration procedure, that is list action and list filter. So let's go to the Omnistudio org and I'll show you a quick demo and we'll start doing our hands-on after that. So if you are able to see my screen, so I have a flex card over here. This flex card has the account details and the related contacts to it. So basically what I'm trying to do is here, often clicking the contact name and clicking on this action, I should be able to filter out the particular contact that I am entering over here, right? And that's what we are going to achieve using integration procedure list action and list filter, right? So if I click on this action button, right, it gives you one contact, that is J-font. And if I empty this part and let's say I hit enter again, so it gives you all the contacts. And let's say I give only D for now, and it will show all the contacts that have D in their name, right? And similarly the same thing can be done in Omniscript as well. So if I come over here and let's say if I want to enter Edward, and if I click on get data, I am getting the data for Edward only. And if I click on J, if I click on get data, I'll be getting the data for all the contacts with name J in their first name, right? So let's get started and we'll do this in the real time, right? So basically I have an integration procedure over here in which I have configured in my previous video. If you want, you can watch that video as well. So the first thing that we're gonna do is to create a new version for this Omniscript. So I am creating a new version for this Omniscript, right? It's gonna take some time. Let's wait for it. All right, it has created a new version for us. But the thing is that it has some details for account, and there is a block, right? This block contains the contact details, and this is a repeatable block, and because the repeat settings has been enabled over here, right? So let's do one thing. I know that I am getting the data over here, so basically let's copy this one and let's drag it to over here. So what will happen whenever I will give the context ID, right? So let me show you the remote properties. When I give the context ID, it should automatically pre-populate the data, right? And when I click on this get data button, it will show me the data, right? So to do that, let's do another thing. We have the contact details over here, and before the contact details, let's try to build a text element. I'll click on text. I'll drag an input text area, so in which I will give the first name, right? Or let's say, okay, I think I have already created one field over here, that is enter the name of the contact, that is contact name, right? It has already been created. And the second thing is that let's drag this text block over here and the integration procedure here as well. So basically this integration procedure and this integration procedure, they both are same. And now let's get the account ID from here, right? And let's come to the integration procedure, come to the Omniscript, right? And let's try to preview it for the first time. So if you are able to see, we are getting the account name, shipping city, all these things, and all these contacts have been populated, and there are 10 contacts over here, right? So now what I'm trying to do, if let's say if I am going to write Edward over here, I should be able to get the data for the Edward, right? But it's not happening for now. Let's try to figure out how we can do that, right? So this is very simple thing. It looks like complex, but it is not, right? So here we have given the contact name, right? Let me give in the contact first name, right? So what we are going to do, this is a get data. This get data by default takes the account ID, You can see it over here, and I am also going to give the first name, right? So what I'll do over here, the value of the contact first name, I'll give it as first name. So I think that's it, right? We are taking the account ID and we are taking the first name, and based on the first name, now we are going to do all our logic inside integration procedure, right? And inside our integration procedure, we'll try to filter out this element, right? And now let's go to this integration procedure. So in my previous videos, I have also created this integration procedure and show how to do this step by step. If you have not yet watched, you can go and watch this video, but for now let me explain that you quickly. So the first thing that I am gonna do here is to create a person, right? And what this integration procedure does is, if I click on preview, right, and if I click on execute, it gives me all this data, right? And it gives me a particular node that is contact details, right? And from this contact details, let's say I want to give a first name, and let's say I want to give the name as Edward. It should able to filter out the value Edward, right? So basically what we are going to do here is, there are a lot of actions, right? So basically let me explain. So all the data we are getting from this particular node, dr transform response colon step data. So let me drag another response section over here, right? And let me show you the additional output, right? Let's name it my response for now, and the value should be this data, right? And one more thing, if you are getting this data from this data to transformation action, right? Dr transform response colon step data, and inside the step data we can also filter trim the node that is called contact details, right? So if I am correct, then if I write over here step data colon contact details, I should be only able to get the list of contacts. Let's come here and try to preview it. So all right, so you can see we have a list over here, right? What we are going to do, based on this list that we are getting from this response, right? Let's say I want the first name, I want the contact which is having the first name as Edward. I should be able to filter it out, right? So to do that, what we are going to do, we have to drag a list action over here, right? And in the list action, what we are going to take, we are going to take this particular node, right? Because in this node we are naming it as my response, but my response name is, my response value is coming from this node, and this node is particularly a list, right? So the first thing we are going to do here is to pass the list. So there is something called as merge list order. So I am gonna click a new value, and I'll simply copy and paste it over here. So what I did is that from this particular response I have copied the value, right? Now we are going to filter out, right? So to filter the value, right, there is something called as filter list formula. And what we are going to filter out, let's suppose we are going to contact name, first name, last name, right? Let's try with the first name, right? We can also give the contact name. Since we are getting the first name over here, we can use that node, right? So let's come over here, let's copy this first name. So what we are going to do, we are getting the list. From this list, right, we are going to get the contact whose first name should be equals to Edward. So right, so that's how we are going to mention it here. So we will, there is something, a function called like over here. I am not sure if it will open over here or not. It's not opening, that's fine, but let me explain. There is something called like. The first parameter is the node name, and the second parameter is the value that we are trying to filter. For now, let's filter Edward, right? Let's try to hard code it. Then we are gonna make it dynamic. So basically, if I gonna try to execute here, I also want to get this response, right? So what I'll do, inside this response action 3, I'll just give list action 1. And now if I try to click on execute, I see I only get the data whose first name is like Edward, right? So now that I confirm that I am getting the data statically, let's make it dynamic. To make it dynamic, the configuration is also very easy, and in 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 place of Edward, I am gonna write the merge field syntax over here, and I am going to paste this first name, right? And now if I click on execute, it's give me the same result, but let me try with giving D. So now what it will do, it will filter out all the contacts whose first name contains D. So let me click on execute. You can see it filters out all the contacts whose first name is D, right? So now we are going to send this output to our Omniscript, right? So how we can send this output response? If we come to this particular Omniscript, this Omniscript has a node that is called step data, right? And inside the step data there is a node called contact details, and inside the contact details it contains the list of contact details and it repeats itself. So basically what we are going to do over here, in the response action 3, in the additional output, in place of my response, what are you going to do, we'll first write step data followed by colon, then followed by might be let me copy that contact details node over here, step data followed by colon followed by contact details. And now if I gonna preview it, it should be step data colon contact details. Let's try to click on execute. So there is a step data node, inside the step data node there is a contact details node, and inside the contact details node this gets updated. But the catch is, now if I always execute this response action, the other response actions will not be executed, right? So you can see there is execution condition formula for this response action and there is no execution formula. So to stop executing this response action always, I am going to execute it conditionally, right? So basically I am going to execute it only when this first name we are getting from the Omniscript, right? So if we are not getting the first name from the Omniscript, then we are not going to execute it, right? So basically we are writing an execution conditional formula over here, and sometimes if you are not able to type it over here, you can go and click on edit as JSON and you can write it over here as well. So basically I will write within the more syntax, I'll say if the first name not equals to blank, and this first name also not should be null, right? So let me copy paste this, and in place of blank what I can write is I will write null. And if I come to this property editor, you can see this first name not equals to blank and not equals to null, then only it will execute, right? And if I come and preview it over here, you can see this executed, but let's say I don't give the first name, it should not be executed. It will be giving the result that it is giving previously, and the previous result was it will giving the account details and the all the contact details. And let me try to execute this. You can see you are getting all the account details followed by all the contact details, right? And also the industry name. So that's it. This is a simple way in which you can use the list filter and list action, right? So the next thing is, now let's activate this version, right? And let's come to our Omniscript and test it. Clear the logs. I have given the context ID. So we have all the contact details over here, and let's say I will just write J over here, and it will give me all the contacts whose first names contains J. So basically we can see I am getting 4 contacts whose first name contains J. and if you don't give any name, it will display all the contacts, right? And let's say if I give my name over here, I know there are two contacts, so it should ideally display two contacts. So you can see there are only two contacts. So that's all about list action, right? But if you are more interested, then I can also show you. I have also configured this list action over here in the flexcard as well. So if you want to do that, this is also very simple thing. So I have a flexcard over here that I have explained in my one of the previous videos, right? So let's make a new version of this flexcard and let's try to build it. So I have the flexcard over here. So basically I'm getting all the account details over here, and this contact details is taking the node record.contact details, right? And this is a child flexcard, right? So now what we are going to do, we are going to drag and text element, right? Input text, right? And I'll resize it, and I'll also drag an action. So in flexcards, everything you do, you can do using action, right? So let me resize it. It should actually ideally place on this side. Let me drag it and place it over here. So now what I'm gonna do over here, let me name the action as to find contact, maybe find contacts, right? And I'll say hide the icon, display as button, and the button should be brand. Block interaction while waiting, I'm making it true to make sure that user does not interact or make any changes while I'm executing this action, right? And for this there should be a field binding, so I'll bind this as first name. I'll actually name as contact first name, right? And now in the find contacts, I'm gonna use the same integration procedure that I was using over here, right? Demo underscore transform SCCon details. And if I show you over here, right, and let me go to the design here over here. If I click on the integration, this is the same integration procedure that I am using everywhere, right? So we are basically making the integration procedure reusable, and we are globally using it, right? So let me come to here and let's go to action. In the action, I'll make the label as get contacts, right? And the type should be data, and in the data it automatically pre-populate the integration procedure, but you can also manually select integration procedures and also the name. Now this takes some input parameters. Let me remove this call from flexcard and paste contact first name over here. And if we come to this integration procedure over here, right, this integration procedure, and if we are going to preview it, it actually takes the first name, right? Let's give the input as first name, right? So let's come over here and let's make it as first name, and the value that we are going, we'll do the data binding, right? So I'll copy this contact first name, I'll expand this get contacts. Now I'll paste it over here. So basically it changes every time because I'm not clicking on save. So if you face similar situations, make sure you are clicking on save. So I'm clicking on first name and I am passing the value as contact first name, and I am removing this. And if I click on save and I click on fetch, right, if I come to the JSON tab, you can see I am getting the step data and the contact details as null. So why I am getting the contact details as null? That's because I am not entering anything over here. And let's see what the result JSON path is giving me. Let me try with something like Edward, and let's try to fetch this. So if I click on Edward, I am getting this data, right? So if you see, I am getting this contact details, right? But what I want over here, I don't want this step data node, right? So I can trim this step data from the response. So how would I able to trim this step data? I'll come to this result JSON path, and here inside the square brackets I'll name it as step data, right? And now if I come to fetch, I'll be able to fetch this data here as well, right? And one more thing that we can improve it over here is, if I go to the integration procedure, right? So the response section, we are giving it as it is, but let's try to make it as a list as well. So let's try to click on deactivate, and for this, right, let me go to response section 3, and for the additional output response, let me cut this and let me try to make as list of actions, right? So let's try to preview it. Let's keep the first name as it is, in the sense, let's give me D. It's giving on the data, and if I give a particular name, it should always return me in list as well. So it returned me that in a list, right? And if I don't give anything, it returned me in something else, right? So basically, if you see, we are getting the step data followed by contact details, right? Now come over here and let's try to activate this one, right? And let's come to our flex card and let's try to fetch this. So now if you see, we are able to get this as a list as well, right? And let's say I give the name as T, and if I try to fetch it, I'm getting all the contact details in the name as T. So now it's time to preview the flex card, right? It's taking some time to deploy the flex card. Let's wait for that. All right, it has been loaded. Now let's wait until it renders the components and the fields. All right, you can see it is showing you all the contacts, but let me try Edward, right? And click on this find contacts. You can see Edward is only coming. And let's say if I try with D only, it gives all the contacts whose first name contains T. And if I write my name over here, I should be able to get only these two contacts, right? And you can see there is little bit alignment issue that we can also quickly fix. Let's try to do that. For this find contacts, there is a property tab and there is also a style tab. So what are you gonna do is, let's come to the margin from the top, let's make it too large and let's try to add it. So now the margin has been aligned. Let's click on preview, and the meantime let's drag this omniscript over here and see if we are able to get the exact data that we are previously getting or not, right? So I have pasted the context ID over here. It is also taking some time. So there are all the contacts, and if I click on my name and let me try with only T, right? I am getting all the data over here, and if you don't type my name, it should send me all the contact details, right? You can see it here. And similarly, the flex card has been rendered and the alignment has been correct, right? And here if I type my name, I'll get all the contacts that contains my name as the first name, right? You can see it over here, right? So that's it. That's all about how we can use the list action and list filter inside integration procedure, right? If you want, I can also give a quick recap how we did it. So basically, let's go to our integration procedure. So we know that in this particular node, dir transform response colon step data, we are getting the all the data, right? And from all the data, we particularly get the data inside the contact details node, and we are using this particular JSON path for our list, right? And inside the list, what I'm doing is that we are filtering the contact whose first name is like the first name that we are giving as input, right? So basically, if we give the input as first name, and it should contain anything like D or something else. So based on this first name we are giving, it will give us all the contacts by filtering out from all the contacts, right? So that's all about list action and list filter of integration procedure. Thank you for watching.